You are naked on the beach. In Rust, your goal is to survive, and in order to do that, you need weapons and a base. But how do we get there? Depending on what your playstyle is and how much experience you have, or even what server you're on, there is a perfect method for you to progress in Rust, and I'll be going over the best methods that will get you from rock to guns every single time. Welcome to my comprehensive guide on how to progress in Rust. My name is hJune, and I have way too many hours in this game. It's been a while since I made a tutorial, and since there are so many different ways you can progress in Rust now, I thought it'd be a useful video for new and experienced players to get an insight on just how many different ways there are to move up in the Rust world. Since I mostly play on vanilla servers and modded servers have their own accelerated progression, I will be basing this video on vanilla gather rate. In Rust, there's a few things you need to understand. Number one, the more people that are online on your server, the faster loot spawns. That means you can build next to a mining outpost in a 50 pop server and the loot will be not that great. However, if you build in the same spot on an 800 pop server, all the crates could be spawning every 3 minutes instead of 15. Number two, some methods work better for certain playstyles, group sizes, and servers and players. You might have just watched Trowsy on YouTube completely dominate the snow against clans all by himself, and you try to do it yourself and find yourself absolutely humbled. If you're in a super pack server, or if you're not very good, or if you're solo, it's probably not a good idea to run contested monuments or try to snowball your way to guns. Find a method that will give you the best possible chance of having a good wipe. Number three, you have to be patient. In Rust, you die a lot. You lose progression constantly as you run into players or get unlucky. Oftentimes, players get in the cycle of not doing anything meaningful over and over naked until you get bored and leave. Stick to a goal and get it done instead of getting distracted by every encounter. If one method doesn't work, try a different one. Number four, scrap is king. With this magical resource called scrap, you're able to get almost everything you need in Rust. You can buy almost every resource and outpost, you can use the tech tree to learn any blueprint that you want, you can even make the majority of components with it. Because of this, you just need a steady flow of scrap in order to progress in Rust. Number five, you have to be able to adapt and be versatile. What worked for you in the past might not work this time around. Every wipe is different with different people, circumstances, and sometimes you're just unlucky. Knowing a lot of different ways to progress in Rust will guarantee that you at least won't be stuck on the beach despite whatever obstacle you might run into. Thank you to StumbleGuys for sponsoring today's video. StumbleGuys is one of the most fun mobile games out there where your objective is to not fall behind other players, much like the progression in Rust. Players run, jump, stumble, and play through matches of 31 other players to qualify for the next round. Qualify for all 3 rounds and earn gems, experience, and a victory crown when you beat everyone else. StumbleGuys is extremely accessible. You can play whenever, wherever you want with a massive community of over 100 million players. With a big football game around the corner, StumbleGuys will be coming out with some cool stumblers such as the USA Astronaut, Brazil King, or the South Korea Tiger. They have new footsteps and new emotes coming as well, and you can earn free daily spins of the rewards wheel, activate the Stumble Pass rewards by earning stars to customize your Stumbler even further. StumbleGuys is available to play through the App Store, Google Play, and Steam. Click my link in the description below to download and play StumbleGuys today. Thank you for supporting the channel, and on with the tutorial. In this video, I'll be going over almost every single possible way you can progress in Rust. To make it easier to follow, I'll be classifying the methods into 3 different categories and share the top 5 methods for each. I'll also be suggesting some YouTubers you can watch to learn that specific playstyle more in depth, since I'll only be scratching the surface. The 3 categories are: number 1, low risk farming. This could be a little bit slower than other methods, but you're almost guaranteed to progress with minimal risk involved. Number 2 is high risk farming. The fastest way to progress, but the most challenging and risky. Number 3 is my favorite method, PvPing or snowballing. This just means you're skipping the whole progression by killing players that farmed for you. First, let's start out with the low risk ways to progress. Number 1, we have to start with fishing. Fishing is probably one of the best and safest ways to progress, since you can spawn naked, run to the fishing village, do a couple of missions, and get a fishing rod for free. The basic premise is that you get high tier fish and you can trade it in exchange for scrap. This can net you thousands of scrap per hour without any risk at all. Sigbog has a great video on this. I would suggest checking it out to get the full details. Number 2, we have poop. You can literally research every blueprint in Rust by farming poop. You buy a few horses, feed them, they poop, you compost that poop into fertilizer, trade that in for scrap in bandit camp, buy pickles with scrap for more food, and the cycle continues. It takes a very long time in vanilla because vendors in safe zone need time to restock their trades, but is extremely safe. GamerGeddon even managed to research every single tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 blueprint by using this method on a vanilla server. Number 3, we have ocean farming. Just by getting a flipper and some diving sets in Fishing Village, you can stay away from the main island and farm the barrels that are out in the ocean or the sunken chests underneath the water. This way you won't run into that many players, and weapons are oftentimes not effective out in the water. A good melee tool or a spear gun is pretty much the best gear you can have out there, and they're quite easy to get. The great thing is you can quickly escape from attackers by diving into the ocean. Number 4 is farming unpopular monuments or the roads for barrels and road signs. Building next to underused monuments like Harbor, Junkyard, Lighthouse, or even Sewer Branch, you might be able to loot them uncontested. Yexem, who usually does crazy feats as a solo, managed to wall in the Lighthouse completely, which is taking this method to the next level. I think another really underrated monument that most people don't farm is the abandoned military base in the desert. It's random what kind of spawns they have each wipe, but sometimes they can have a ton of the new overpowered crates and a bunch of military crates and crude barrels, making it an extremely easy monument to farm once you clear the scientists. I also really like building right next to either Oxum's gas station or the supermarket in the tier 3 area, since you can build really close, a lot of good boxes spawn, and there's a ton of traffic in the recycler. Roads are also great for farming barrels relatively unnoticed, minus all the NPCs that try to shoot you. If you build next to 2-3 roads, you might not even have to go to a monument to get all the scrap that you need. If you need to go to one, I would suggest filling out which monuments are unpopular on your server and trying to build next to them if you're trying to be low key. Another great method is you can use paddles to stay in safe zones like Outpost and farm the road signs that spawn completely risk free. Each road sign gives you 1 metal pipe and 1 road sign, which is 10 scrap. Number 5 is selling raw resources or favor for scrap. You can also choose to not build next to any monuments at all and instead focus on getting resources. For example, go build a base in an island with nothing on it. There will hardly be any players most of the time, and you can farm the resources that most groups need like sulfur or fuel and sell them for scrap or guns in a vending machine. Players always need cloth or teas to boost their farming efficiency, so making a tea/cloth farm wouldn't be a bad idea either. A YouTuber duo with the name Wheat Farmers managed to make a defendable cloth farm that doubles as a main base, so you can even start your wipe with a cloth farm if you want. Next up is the high risk methods to progress. These are mostly for experienced players or groups that have a lot of people, but depending on your server, it might be not as contested as you might expect. Number 1, we have to start with a cargo ship. It is one of the most overpowered events that you can go to, even solo with only a bow. You can come out with rows of guns without any cards at all. The real challenge I'd say is that it is very contested by other players, so you want to make sure that you are the first one on. First, you want to find or buy a boat, bring a bit of cloth, a bow, and some food and get to the side of the cargo. Once you get on, you want to immediately sprint to the stairs. You can then heal up and isolate the scientists to kill them one by one. The cargo ship has 3 locked crates and a ton of military crates and elite crates. The locked crates spawn one by one, and with each locked crate, all the military crates and elite crates respawn with it. You should be looting around until you find one weapon, and it should be a lot easier to clear the rest of the scientists and protect the loot. One YouTuber you can watch that is amazing at solo play and using cargo to its full potential is Posty. In this video, he rushes missions to get a pump and contests the first cargo successfully to get ahead of every other group on the server. Number 2, running the best highly contested monuments in Rust. Arctic Research Base is one of the best land monuments since it has the new crates that can have sometimes up to triple the amount of a normal military crate. It spawns a ton of food, barrels, crude oil, spawns a red card, and is still great without having to use any cards. If you're in a high populated server, the spawn times are insane and you can get a box of components in no time. I would also recommend Trainyard as a great pick for a monument since it has really good loot in and outside of the blue card room. The Chinook crate events frequently spawn in Trainyard as well, and you can use the new resource trains to get sulfur, metal, and fuel really easily. Launch site is also amazing because it's huge and has a ton of crude barrels, brown boxes, and military crates all around. The red card room is slightly underwhelming and dangerous to run with the NPCs, but you can easily get a few sneaky runs in anywhere else without being seen because of how large it is. Cakes is a great example of someone that builds in the most dangerous spots as a solo or duo and thrives. I remember I versed him one wipe where he instantly rushed Bradley 40 minutes into wipe as a duo and was C4 raiding me not even 1 hour in. Underwater labs are being nerfed and most maps will only have 1 instead of the usual 3. I'm not sure how the meta will change, but Underwater Labs is still a very overpowered monument where you can just AFK and get a box of high tier components without even seeing anyone. I was on a 450 pop server and I was able to AFK for the first 2 hours solo and get a box of components without seeing any players. Of course, Oil Rig is still one of the best monuments to farm as well if you're trying to get guns, and you can honestly clear the scientists really easily. The only downside is that you need a red card and a blue card if you're running small oil. With just a few grenades that you can buy from Bandit Camp, you can clear even the heavy scientists with ease. One YouTuber I would recommend watching is Blazed. I think he goes to oil rig more than anyone I know, and he can make it work even if he doesn't have anything. The underground tunnels is somewhere honestly anybody can go. You can clear the scientists with just a bow if you're careful, and there's a handful of stations you can farm depending on where you live. Even just clearing one station nets you more loot than an average monument would. Apart from the ones that I listed, there's a ton of other monuments, and I say most of them are viable, such as military tunnels, satellites, dome, airfield. These are all solid picks to start your rust wipe. However, if I had to choose, I think the tunnels, oil rigs, labs, launch, train yard, and Arctic are the best monuments to main in my opinion. Number 3, we have gambling. Pretty self-explanatory, literally the definition of high risk and high reward. Go to Bandit Camp and bet your scrap to either win or lose. I wouldn't do this personally knowing my luck, but you can definitely win big and you would be set for wipe if you do. There's been quite a few interesting videos on how to maximize your profits, and I think this recent one by Pixo is pretty interesting. Number 4, we have Giant Excavator. With a combination of running great monuments that also have diesel spawns, you can use Excavator to get resources extremely fast. One diesel can get you either 50 high quality metal, 2,000 sulfur ore, 5,000 cooked metal fragments, or 10,000 stone per diesel. You can find diesel in dome, junkyard, small and large oil rig, or you can buy it with 300 low grade in outpost. Even if you only manage to secure a portion of the resources, it's still much faster than the conventional way of farming. However, it's extremely loud and a lot of groups will contest you. Number 5 is going for every airdrop. It's really risky because everyone will be swarming to them, especially early into wipe, but it's one of the best ways to get ahead super early. It can give you multiple guns, sometimes a C4 and scrap. It's always worth it to go fight for them. Next up, we have our next category, my favorite, snowballing, aka a method that usually involves fighting other players. The most basic one that everyone knows is to hit a tree and either make a spear or a bow and find someone to kill. However, this isn't really the best way for a lot of people unless you're one of the best at snowballing like Aiden on YouTube. If you like watching the traditional snowball methods, I'd highly recommend checking Aiden out. Other than just a bow, there's a ton of different ways players can snowball nowadays, and I'll be listing some of my favorites. Number 1 is the outpost strat. Hit 1 or 2 stone nodes, farm a few barrels enough to get around at least 40 scrap and go to outpost. You can pretty much get a starter pack in outpost with minimal farming just by utilizing the shops. 1500 stone trades in for 5000 wood in outpost. Make sure to buy 250 metal with 25 scrap and use that to make a crossbow if you can and a nail gun with a few nails. With the wood that you got, you can craft a building plan, hammer, tool cupboards, boxes, and you pretty much have a really strong primitive starter kit with enough resources for a base. I usually craft a few extra nail guns if I can afford it and start looking for opportunities to snowball after making my base. Number 2 is a controversial one. You get some scrap and go to Outpost or Bandit to buy some grenades. A direct hit with a grenade can just about kill any gear player, and you can use it to throw at roamers or camp a monument or elevator. Live Stomper on YouTube always makes the craziest grenade plays. If you want to see how deadly grenades are, I suggest checking them out to see how to use them properly. Number 3, how to be fully geared in the ocean. You can also stay by Outpost and get scrap to research the spear gun. You then buy a diving tank plus flippers, and just by getting a propane tank and some metal to make the spear gun, you are pretty much fully geared out in the water. You can now counter oil rig and hunt all the players stranded in the water or find other divers and ocean farmers to kill. Even if they have diving gear themselves, if they don't have a spear gun, they cannot shoot you back. Rickoloff on YouTube does this extremely well, controlling oil rig all by himself and wiping group after group solo. Number 4 is using player shops to get guns and blueprints. If you join the server late, chances are there are a ton of player shops selling guns for cheap. Go to Outpost or Bandit Camp to see the deals. You usually just need around 300 sulfur or 30 crude oil to buy a decent gun. One tip is to use a search function to search for the exact item that you want when you enter the terminal map. Number 5 is going deep. This has been a thing since the beginning of time, basically using weapons like the Yoka, compound bow, nail guns, double barrel shotguns to camp outside someone's base until they open their door and you try to get in and steal their base without using explosives. Beachills is one of the best YouTubers to watch for this kind of content. He has over 283 videos in his Going Deep series alone, and he always uses creative methods like audio baiting a C4 sound so the base owners open their base out of desperation. Number 6, we have eco raids. With this, you are trying to get in someone's base or loot room without using traditional explosives. The most basic way is to get wood, craft spears, and head out a backward stone wall or into someone's window by hitting the soft side from the outside. If you alternate between 2 spears with every hit, you can skip the animation and break the wall much faster. 2 great YouTubers you can watch is Shaki, who's known for his profit raids, and Sebi, the king of eco raids. Number 7 is controlling the ocean. You can have full control over the ocean simply by investing all your scrap into getting a submarine up and running. A 1-seater is 200 scrap and 2-seaters are 300 scrap, and torpedoes are 75 scrap to buy. You do need a workbench level 2 to craft the torpedoes though, and they cost 30 gunpowder and 1 pipe for 3 torpedoes. You are pretty much invincible in the water in a submarine, and you can kill any player or boat and you can safely loot them from inside your submarine. You can even choose to raid a base using this method. Starguard 2 has a funny video where he uses the submarines like a budget MLRS rocket to raid a base in the shore. For reference, a stone wall would be 1600 sulfur and 30 pipes to raid using this method. Number 8 is being a rat/grub. This is a really annoying way to play for a lot of people, but this is a method where you have nothing to lose and you're using the slimiest ways to kill a geared player. This includes using a compound bow in bushes, scamming geared guys, camping outside of safe zones to kill the people going in and out to loot them, camping recyclers in monuments with a shotgun, or even countering oil rigs with nothing but a shotgun. One person I definitely don't want to verse is Oil Rats, and as you can tell by his name, he's one of the best at rat plays on oil rig. He always manages to snowball from shotgun to fully loaded by knowing the monument inside and out. That concludes my tutorial on how to progress in Rust. Hopefully it helps you guys out on getting your first workbench or weapon in your next wipe. Let me know in the comments if you have a different favorite way of progressing. You can find me on twitch.tv/hJune if you want to catch me snowball live in Rust. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.